Today's episode of Quantum Action, we meet with supermodel Clarissa Burt and talk about self-esteem. She's just launched her new book, The Self-Esteem Regime. And the interview, she's actually in Italy now promoting the Italian version of her book, and the Spanish version will be coming out soon as well. Now, Clarissa's been a supermodel for over 30 years. She's also an actress. She's been in a number of movies, both in Italy and also in the United States. And so she has an interesting journey, how she improved her self-esteem and how becoming a supermodel wasn't on the cards in the beginning, and how she came across to become a model, and she went out to Italy, and then how eventually this book developed, and what she has to share about self-esteem, what she's learned, and the advice that she can give to us all about improving our self-esteem. So it's a great interview, great chat with Clarissa. She's a very smart lady, looks after herself. She's a bit older now, but she's in super shape, as you'll see. And she has a really interesting story, inspiring story, both for young people and for older people. So let's get into today's episode with Clarissa Burt. And welcome to Quantum Action. If you haven't subscribed, remember to subscribe to the channel. Let everybody know about Quantum Action, because we're here to take you to infinity and beyond. So let's go and see what Clarissa Burt has in store for us today in today's episode. Off we go. Hi, Clarissa. Welcome to Quantum Action. Great to have you here today. I understand you are in Italy to promote your book, which is now in Italian.
I most certainly, and funny, you should have an Italian name, Fabrizio Poli.
Yes.
Fabrizio Poli, we started our conversation a few minutes ago with, I might even know some of your family, and I probably don't.
Yeah, my dad was in the fashion business, so he probably cut your hair at some stage.
I think he probably did at some stage with my 30 years of being in Italy. Well, anyway, good to be here. Thank you so very much. And, you know, the message of self-esteem, I'm very excited to dive into that with you about, you know, anything and everything.
So your book about self-esteem is doing very well in the US market. Now you're launching in Italy, and I understand January in Spanish as well, and probably other languages. So as a model, when you were on all these fashion magazines and, you know, on the catwalk and that, what was your self-esteem like back then compared to today? Tell us a bit about your journey.
We talk about back in the 80s now. So it's, you know, it's pre-computer, pre-internet, pre-cell phones and that sort of thing. And I was, you know, as a young girl out and about in the world who really, you're disconnected from everything at that point. When you leave home back in, you know, Collingdale or Pennsylvania, you know, you sort of get up and get on a plane and leave. And the best thing you had at that point was par avion, you know, when we used to send our mail by airplane mail. So, you know, I have to say that back in the day, coming from the family that I came from, which was a little bit of a rough background. You know, there was alcoholism in the family, there was violence in the family. And so as I was walking out the door to encounter the rest of my life, it was a little, you know, a little unsteady, if you will. Let's put it that way. It was kind of scary place to be. And it was, you know, I think I came out with a little PTSD also. Okay. So I'm coming out into the world as a young girl. Nobody ever told me that, you know, I really could, or that I was pretty, or that I should, or, you know, I didn't feel it. And I never thought that I could. So I'm into New York City now, and I'm working as a secretary in New York City. And I have people telling me, oh, you know, you really should be a model. Oh, you could be a model. And they're feeding me, because it was exactly what I wanted to hear. Fast forward, I get into a photography test. They do hair, they do makeup, they throw me in front of a camera. I get access to those pictures. I take them into a few agencies in New York. And in 1981, Wilhelmina in New York City accepted me. They took me on. And then my look was completely wrong. So, you know, here I am now in a business that is rife with rejection, rife with rejection. And so I wasn't the look. I wasn't the look. I wasn't blonde and blue-eyed with, you know, mini skirts and bouncing smiley on beaches. That wasn't my thing. It just wasn't what I was. So I encountered an agent from Milan, and he was, you know, I think I was more sophisticated, and he thought I'd be perfect for Italy. And I was. I had a quick stint first in Paris, didn't much like Paris. And I shouldn't say that, but it wasn't my vibe. And I came to, you know, Italy, where I just, you know, I fell madly in love. So I stayed here for the 25 years, started as a model. And I have to say, you know, as I started to work through the process of modeling, and, you know, you gain confidence in that, it was really, it was good for me, because I think it was the stage that I was looking for. It was the stage that I think I needed, because I didn't get the accolades as much as from home, but now I was getting it from complete strangers, which was really odd, but it was helpful toward my path to self-esteem, believe it or not.
Yeah. So you've written the book. And how important is self-esteem? And what does someone have to do to acquire it? So obviously you went on this journey becoming a model, and that gave you a lot of confidence and a lot of self-esteem along the way.
Yes.
How does
Yes.
the normal guy or girl out there on the street acquire self-esteem? Or if they've got a self-esteem, what do they need to do to improve?
Well, I think at a certain point you realize that, what you learned from the natal tribe was good up until a certain point, and then there were some things that weren't working for you.
Mm-hmm.
Probably, I throw it out there every once in a while, say even your faith. Faith is a lovely thing and it's a wonderful thing and it works for many people, but there might be a thing or two in there you kind of scratch your head about and go, I don't know, does it really align with who I am? Your educative process. So the institutions, colleges, universities, your peer groups, all the different formation, if you will, that you go through. At a certain point, I think everybody gets to a certain point in their lives and they go, I really think I need to make some changes. If not radical changes from the things that I know, the things that I've learned, the things I've been taught, and even eventually the people that I might be, that might be in my sphere. Let's put it that way. You start to feel that the jacket gets too tight, and you just gotta, the clothes are just gotta break away, kind of like Hulk did, right?
Yeah.
And so you've got to, and therein lies a little bit of the conundrum, because you've got to have the courage to be able to get up and move on, to go find your own path, go find your own truth, knowing full well that you might offend some people. Somebody's going to get their nose out of joint, if not feel, a little triggered by you and your growth and how successful you're becoming, because you're being you, you're not being them. You're not being what they wanted you to be. So a little bit of a growth spurt there. And again, love them where they're at. They know what they know. They taught you what they knew. You're learning different things for your life, and I said, just go do it and have a good amount of fun doing it.
Well, I always talk about the dream stealers, and there's two types of dream stealers: those that don't want you to be successful. So they're obviously going to try and knock you down, and they're easy to spot. But the dangerous ones are those that love you. And they're not telling you can't do this, Clarissa, because they don't want you to. They just don't want you to get hurt. And I had this with my English grandmother, because I had an English grandmother and an Italian grandmother. And my English grandmother would say to me, oh, your dad's been successful in the hairstylist business. He knows Vidal Sassoon. He worked with him. He was his apprentice. Why don't you become a hairstylist? I said, I'm not interested in cutting people's hair. I want to be a pilot. So I didn't listen to her. And, in all fairness, she was only trying to be nice to me and trying to avoid pain. She said, well, no one's been in aviation in our family. I said, so I'll be the first one. And so off I went. And
my grandmother used to say to me, Chrissy, when are you going to come home and plop it? Plop it. I was like, gee, grandma, I love you with all my heart, but I wasn't born to be plopped. I was born to, to do so many wonderful things that this lifetime really does afford us. And it really, it's up to us in how we affront our everyday. Look, everybody's got their thing. Everybody's got their stick. Everybody's got issues. Everybody comes from their back. Everybody's got a story, and everybody could sit and just boo-hoo their way through life, or put on some big girl britches, put on some big boy britches, and get on with it and make things happen. Look, I call my book a regime for a reason. Regime being, meaning an organized way of doing things, organized way of doing things, starting with my 12 chapters. The first chapter, Fabrizio, is release. What do you got to let go of? What do you have to unlearn? Because I'm telling you, those are that right there is almost 80% of what you've got to work on. The next chapter is we got rebuild. So let's start rebuilding, maybe even from foundation. You might be rebuilding from the third floor. I don't know, but even from foundation, that's okay. Don't be afraid. Don't be worried. It takes a little time. It's going to take a little bit of elbow grease and some hard work. And oh, by the way, you don't get anything really great out of this lifetime. Really, very few things, unless you're working hard at it. You work for a goal, right? Something that is productive is going to make you feel really good about that. The third chapter is responsibility. Fabrizio, where are you taking responsibility in your life? And where are you shirking responsibility? Where is it that if you were to really grab the bull by the horns, right, and take it full on, straight on, that you could really turn that corner and feel great about the decision you just made, or the thing that you just done that has turned your life upside down in a good way. What would that mean to you? How phenomenal would that be? Our last chapter is reciprocal, which is one of the most difficult for me. Reciprocal being, giving to others, but allowing others to give to you. It's one of the laws of the universe, right? It was one of the most difficult for me to learn because I took care of everything and I took care of everybody and I was capable and I was, all these things, all of it, dependable and reliable and responsive, all those lovely things. And and then every once in a while I'd sit down and I'd bitch about it, go, I do so much around here for everybody else, but who's ever going to step in and do anything for me? And they'd say to me, Clarissa, it's not that easy to do something for you. It's not. We don't know what to do for you. What do we do for you? And I went, okay, learned the lesson. Thanks for letting me know. Appreciate that. I'll affront it differently from now on. So therein we start to enter into the boundaries territory. So boundaries don't have to be set with anger. They don't have to be set with yelling and screaming. Boundaries can be set with ease, joy, and glory. Just set them. And that means how you are teaching others how you want to be treated, how you will and will not be spoken to, how you will and will not be treated. And again, this is another huge step for you toward a very happy, healthy self-esteem path.
Yeah. And this, I think, connecting to what you were saying in the beginning, if somebody, like you were in an environment in the States and you left that environment, you went all the way and eventually landed in Italy where no one knew you. And while you were there, you kind of reinvented yourself. So sometimes what I'm getting from you is that if you are in an environment that's not helping you with your self-esteem, just move, go somewhere else. And every time you move to a new city or a new country, you can reinvent yourself as you make this. Obviously, you've got to have some talent of some sort. And this is the other thing that you were saying, which I really appreciate, is that everybody has to find their life purpose, their talent, why they're here. Because sitting here and comparing ourselves to the guy next door is the wrong thing to do, because he or she have their own sets of talents, which is nothing to do with you. So we need to look at who we are and what talents we have and develop those. And if we can turn those into a business like you did, just go for it.
Well, first of all, self-esteem 101 is never compare yourself to anyone else, right?
Yeah.
And here's the deal with that. Until you can walk, on someone else's shoes, don't even go down that path. Number two, social media has completely crushed almost everything and everyone. Because
and I wanted to connect to the social media bit because 15 years ago, this stuff wasn't even around. Right. So how has social media impacted people's self-esteem, and how are the COVID lockdowns impacted it?
Well, that's why I want two questions there. How has it impacted self-esteem? Is, be really, really careful about what you perceive to be reality on social media, because people are very, very good at letting you know exactly what they want you to know, right? Yeah. So I can say I'm the greatest, personal development guru and go do, event that, the Airbnb villa and 2 Lamborghinis to put out front for the day and make it look like I've hit the jackpot, and yeah. I'm not saying they all do that. Some do that, but I will say, be very, very careful with what you're seeing and what you're reading, what you're believing, and what you're perceiving on social media, because I will tell you that I could put on a filter right now and make myself look like I'm 40 years younger than I am. It just isn't reality. And by the way, why would I want to be? I'm so thrilled with who I am. And that's the place I want everybody to get to. In other words, you are so lucky that you get to be you. So you don't have to be Susie Q. You don't have to be the most famous, the most pretty, you don't have to be all that. Just be you and be the best you that you can possibly be. And I know this sounds redundant. And it's like, oh, Clarissa, please, we've heard this all before. But I'll tell you what, when you start doing the work and it really starts coming true for you, then get back to me. I'll give you my email address and let me know just how great that feels. What was the second part of that? That was a social media part we said.
No. Well, the COVID, now this is the thing now, and I don't want to get into talking about, I can't say the word because otherwise they'll censor the podcast.
I get it. Well, COVID was I want to say deleterio for everybody, right? I can't even come up with the word.
Shut everybody in their homes and made people mask up.
Which is why my book dropped at the perfect moment. Because why? Because in those 2.5 years, we had such a sense of loss. And let me go down the list: loss of family, loss of friends, loss of faith, loss of hope, loss of motivation, loss of money, loss of jobs, loss of homes, loss of relationships. Just loss, and this sense of gloom and doom and all of that came with it. There is no better time to be getting yourself into the personal development. It doesn't have to be my book, but get yourself into a personal development course, class, but do something, get into a positive group that is really, projected into the future and what is next and not what was. We can all live in, everybody can sit there and live in what was. Boo-hoo, woe is me. It doesn't work. You can sit there. I'm going to give you 2 days. I'll give you 3 at tops. Go boohoo yourself, get it all out, do the best you can do. And then again, remember those big girl britches I talked about before, put them on and let's just go. A regime is an organized way of doing things. And as I said before, I start at the beginning and we end at the end, right? So if you follow and do the work, there are case studies, Clarissa's Corner, the Clarion Call, affirmations, mirror therapy, journaling, all this stuff that helps you get stuff out. And then when you start to do your vision board, forget about it. I will tell you, Fabrizio, that every time I put something on a vision board, it's happened. I don't care what, well, apart from the Bentley in the garage, everything.
That's coming. That's coming. It's on its way.
That has not yet happened. But pretty much everything else that I have ever said that I wanted to do, I wanted the book in Barnes & Noble, there it was. I wanted to be on Oprah. I was on Oprah radio. I wanted all the different things that I've wanted to do. And I must say, I am thrilled. You say, how do people get self-esteem? It's a value system. So what's important to you? You know, I mean, people will start to make changes when the pain gets to be that bad. You know, a lot of things also, the other thing.
Well, Tony Robbins says, people act out of pain or pleasure.
Because hurt people hurt people. So remember, you know, I like to say the toxic stops here. I've been hurt. I've been massacred. And many of us have. We all have our stories. Yeah. But it stops here because I make a conscious decision not to want to for lack of a better word, to continue with the cancer. You know, we can spread even mental cancer, if we can call it that for a moment. So I like to say taking the high road, Fabrizio. The high road is living in honesty, integrity, in greatness, and with honor. And when you come to the table with those kinds of the value systems are important. Principles, you can either set yourself apart or you can put yourself in a leadership position. And a lot of things. So if I were to stand at the water cooler and say, you know, that's Susie Q, and if I walk into a conversation and they're all trashing Susie Q, I have 2 choices I can make. I can become part of the tribe and start foaming at the mouth and really trashing Susie Q, or I can decide to say, you know, I know Susie Q, and that's not the girl I know. You know, maybe she was just having a bad day, guys. Come on, give her a break. Let's go give her a hug. Oh my God. I mean, either, you know, people are going to look at me like I'm completely nuts, but one thing will happen. I'll walk away and every one of those people are going to go, you know, they might even feel, they're probably going to feel a little, they're going to either hate me, love me, feel uncomfortable, whatever. But I know that I have created in them a second way of looking at things. I was on Survivor. I was on the show Survivor, and we were out in Nicaragua and we were starving. So there was an exercise we had to do. We had to get onto a helicopter, and the 2 pretty girls, the younger girls, pretty girls in their bikinis and in front of the cameras all the time. They were lovely. I love them. They get a hold of the pilot, the helicopter pilot, and they ask him if he can go into the hut and get some snacks for us because they're starving. So this guy comes back out with a brown paper bag. The girls get in the back and I'm in the front. And at a certain point, I get a tap on the shoulder and they want to pass me some of the snacks. I don't know what they were, candy bars, whatever it was. And I looked at them and I said, oh, no, thank you.
So they were basically cheating.
They were cheating. I knew that it was against the rules. I knew that that it was not living in honesty. That was certainly not integrity. And that was not in my honor system to be able to say, to put myself at an advantage because I could have taken a stolen moment that nobody else. Honor is who you are when no one else is in the room. Honor is what is your character when no one else is watching. Or in other words, Fabrizio, you might, how do you really untangle the Christmas lights?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, is it, you know, we all get frustrated, but are you screaming at the top of your lungs, or are you just taking it with your hot cocoa and a grain of salt, you know?
So in your book, you talk about support groups and the importance of support groups. Tell us, enlighten us on the support group thing. So here we are trying to, you know, sort out the self-esteem. How can a support group help with this?
Well, people that are going to pull you up, people that are going to support you, people that are going to applaud you, people that are going to truly and honestly feel success because you're successful. They're going to feel great for your success. This is a lack of jealousy. This is a lack of envy, and it's the kind of place where, you know, especially now with the internet. One good thing about the internet is we can find people of like mind and same ilk pretty much anywhere. And so meetup.com, as opposed to different, you know, there are many different Facebook groups that are all about, you know, support and you know, happy, healthy, even there has self-esteem and you know, really wanting to see people fly. Let's put it that way. I also like to talk about loyalty when we go down that path. And that is, you know, loyalty is when I have your back behind your back. We talked about it kind of a little bit before.
Yeah.
When you have my back behind my back, right? So again, back to that water cooler situation, this is really important. The other thing, Fabrizio, we talk a lot about in self-esteem is I am enough, you are enough, we are enough, everybody's enough. But at the end of the day, enough as a definition only means as much as is required.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know about you, I know about me, but I know that I am so much more than is required. And so be really, really careful about what you're feeding your subconscious, right?
Because and here we go into the mirror therapy, which is an interesting one. How does this help?
You just take a look at yourself in the mirror. Now, when you start looking into your own eyes and you start diving down deep into your own soul, and you start telling yourself, I like you. I'm sorry for that, whatever. I forgive you for whatever. And I got to say, I really love you. I love you. I support you. You're going to have a great day. You're going to kill it at that meeting. You know, whatever it is you need to be telling, because nobody else is going to tell you. You know, they call it self-help for a reason. Yeah. It's not self-help because everybody else is telling you how wonderful you are. It's self-help because you have to get to that point where it doesn't matter look, what everybody else thinks about me is none of my business. You've heard this before, I'm sure, a million times. It's not my business what you think about me. It's my business what I think about me. And the other thing that I will strongly underline is this is called self-help, Fabrizio. It's not called shelf help. As long as you buy it and leave it on the bedside, as long as you look at it and you leave it in the bookstore, as long as you're not doing the work, it's not going to do much for you. So
well, the reason why this podcast is called Quantum Action is because it requires action.
Absolutely.
I can take you to the gym. I can pay for your membership. I can hire a personal trainer. But if you don't do the work, you're not going to build the muscle.
Don't you hate that?
It's a fact.
I really hate that part. You know, now you got to say that part of the gym, I wish somebody else could build my muscles, but that's okay. I'm joking, obviously, yeah. But you know, I love the work that I do. People say, "Oh, but what if I fail? What if I?" Well, failing is your first attempt in learning. Yeah. So get over it. It's okay. You can't. You know, nobody got from 0 to 100 without making some mistakes. I don't care if they were Ford. I don't care if they were Einstein. I don't care if it was Tesla. I don't care if it's Elon Musk. That you don't get there without a whole bunch of. You know, you're going to make some mistakes. So embrace them and be happy about it. Feast the fears. You know, there are a couple of these acronyms. But you know, fear being face everything and rise. You know, I could do a million of those. You know, yeah. Different. Just face the fear. I get scared too. I mean, I'm old and older now, and you know, you think I'd be at a point where I really think so. Yes, things are going to scare you until the good Lord calls you home. I think. You know,
you're doing. You're doing very. I mean, you've looked after yourself, and that's really good. You see, some women as they age, they kind of let themselves go. But you've looked after yourself very well. And that to me is really, really important. I mean, I'm 53 right now. Everyone tells me I don't look it, but you know, I'm looking after myself because I don't want to end up being 90 and with a walking stick. I want to be out there. Right. I'll be flying jets at 90.
Absolutely.
If I get to 90. But
thank you for the compliment. I am 10 years your senior, but
yeah. But I mean, at the end of the day, this is what a lot of people don't realize is, you know, you have to look after. And where does it start? It starts one step at a time, one day at a time.
It does.
And, you know, watch what you eat. Make sure you move your body because your body's been built to move. You know, and that's so important to do that. I mean, I've always done sport, and I still do sport today. I mean, okay, I've had a couple of football injuries lately, so I've decided to retire from football and go back to playing tennis. But you know, but I was still playing football with my kids. I mean, my eldest is 22, my youngest is 14, my daughter's 14, 3 boys are 17, 19.
Oh, wow.
And so we play cultural football on a Saturday with the other dads and the other boys and that. And sometimes it gets a bit physical. So I smashed a knee a couple of years ago, and then I smashed an ankle a couple of months ago. But, you know, I'm back fit now. But I decided I think I'll get into tennis.
Much better, Fabrizio. I would say yes. In that way, you can get on the court, do a couple of rounds, come back off, and then
No,
really
no,
love
I'm
your.
getting into tournaments. I've decided this is going to be my new thing because I used to play tennis back in the day, and then I went off and did other things, and so I thought, well, I'm over 50, so I can compete in the over 50s. It gives me a bit of a chance to win a trophy.
Right.
A bit cheeky of me here, but I thought to myself, why not set myself a goal? Get myself up on the court playing, and then put myself into some tournaments, see how I do.
Goals are very important, and they're really, really good. They're really, really cool when you can write them down. And we talk about that in the book as well. So, we go through all the goals and how to hit them, and how to, even give yourself a little teeny party every time you do hit one of your goals. Maybe it's a piece of chocolate or a glass of wine, or, a little trip for the weekend or something, whatever it is that you do to, kind of give yourself a little award. That's always a nice thing to do.
Yeah.
Another thing, I like to talk about is, in self-esteem, and that is, apart from the fact that
What about the 4 pillars of self-esteem? Because we haven't
getting to that. Yeah. The 4 pillars are the look good, feel good, be good, and greater good. So look good, love, just like you've just said. It's a perfect segue. You want to take really good care of yourself, because we want to be looking, when you're looking good, you just have a lilt in your step. You affront things in a different way. When you're feeling good, diet, exercise, nutrition, we've just touched upon that.
Let's talk about nutrition, because this is a subject that I'm really interested in, and as a family, we've been plant-based diet for 24 years now. Plant-based. Okay. Vegan, plant-based. Yeah. What type of food do you eat and don't eat? I mean, what's your type of diet?
I'm a pescatarian. I will eat some fish.
Yeah.
I'm a pescatarian. I will eat some fish, but outside of that, I am not a red meat eater. I don't eat any meat at all. Okay. I do not drink. Yeah. I've come completely off of sugar. I've come completely off of gluten. I am a type A blood type. So I do have a little bit more in the way of dairy, and people say, dairy, don't do dairy. It's horrible. Okay. If I don't do some dairy, then there's nothing left on the planet, really. I mean, for me at least. Okay. Yes, lots of plants, lots of vegetables, lots of salads. I will do eggs. I will do eggs, which is, I understand for.
What about supplements? Do you take any supplements? Any that kind of thing?
I take supplements all the time. I feel all kinds of, from the magnesium powder to the vitamin C powder to all kinds of different things that go into the protein shakes, which I don't have with me because I have to travel with all that stuff, and it's
yeah.
But yes, absolutely. I think I bought some vitamin C, and I bought a multivitamin at the airport when I got here, so that I would have it on the way. Yeah. But yes, supplements, absolutely. And matcha green tea. I'm a matcha latte fanatic. Okay. So tea, I'm a tea drinker, not coffee. And I do drink about 5 matcha lattes a day.
Okay. What about work? What type of sport do you do? Or what type of working out?
I'm a power walk. Power walking means I'm not running, but I'm doing about 130 beats per minute with 5-pound weights as I go. So that keeps the arms in shape, and that keeps the legs going. That keeps its caloric burn. And
so do you do this on the treadmill, or do you do this actually outside?
Out. I have all that stuff in the garage, actually. Yeah. But I do go out. I live in the desert. I live in Arizona, so I have to get out real early in the morning before the heat hits in the summer for 6 months. Now it's beautiful there. So, it's you just have to do it. If I don't do it first thing in the morning, Fabrizio, it's not going to happen. I have to be first up before breakfast, first out the door, and then.
Because obviously if you eat right and you move your body, that helps with your self-esteem as well, which is really, really important.
Yeah, I mean, and also it's the oxygenation to the brain, which just is it's a natural high then, isn't it? So yeah.
Okay, so let's recap these 4 pillars then.
Okay, look good, feel good, we did. Be good. So where are you with your finances, relationships, leadership, all the other ships, if you will, that you need to be affronting in your life, making sure that they are all in check at any given time, and at your education. I am constantly on the computer, constantly learning. So even if it's a Udemy or a Coursera or a Linda, if it's a 12-step course, I don't care what it is, and mostly for business. I will say most of it is for business. Yep. I am constantly learning, constantly reading, constantly, and it's
same here. That's why I'm surrounded by books, and I got a ton of stuff, new stuff I'm reading at the moment.
Yes, absolutely. So love to ingest information. Just love it. And I'll tell you, funnily enough, and I know a lot of people go, I get a lot of stuff off of TikTok. I know people go, that's horrible, it's Chinese. No, it's more than that. I get a lot of different viewpoints, if you will, from TikTok. So they kind of help at times. And so that's that look good, feel good, be good. And then the greater good is paying it back, paying it forward, tithing, volunteering, all the things that we do for others. I can't think of a quicker self-esteem boost than doing something good for somebody else. It just is the way it is. It's just the way that, I operate. And I think of anybody. I mean, look, and let's not forget the way things used to be when we were taught manners, Fabrizio, and that was a pregnant woman, give her the seat on the, and the elderly, give them the seat on public transportation. Help a lady down the stairs with, her baby carriage. Help a woman, old lady across the street. All this stuff that, I think has kind of gone by the wayside, which is sad. But I don't, hope, I think my hope is the last to die, is if we can get books like this, into schools, if we can get, information like, my book into, schools or into, learning where, the youngers are learning. I think that we might be able to still salvage some good old fashioned manners, good manners.
Let's talk about young people today, because young people today are very much on their phones, into TikTok and social media and messaging their friends. And I see some of my kids, they prefer to message people than talk. I mean, what do you think of this new generation? I mean, and what can we do to help them? Because obviously a lot of them are having big self-esteem issues. Self-esteem issues. Well, more than the previous generations. At least that's what I've noticed.
If you take a look at the recent studies from the CDC, and CDC, we can either take or leave recently with COVID. But when they're talking about 44% of our children, our school children from junior high, high school, are suffering from depression and or suffering from anxiety and or thinking of committing suicide and or have committed suicide, I think we are at epidemic proportions. And I would say if half of our children are really thinking that the easiest way out is to off themselves, we have a major issue on our hands. I'm not a parent, but if I were to be a parent, and by the way, I've parented many people in my life, so I've taken care of many, so I don't feel as though I've missed out in any way, shape, or form. But if we were to get, take away, like from the younger age, start limiting screen time, just limit it. And get back to that kitchen table, get back to that 1 hour, 1.5 hours, start preparing the food together, clean up the kitchen together. That's an hour and a half that you have with the kids, with the family, with mom and dad, because kids at the end of the day really want their mother and their father. It's just the way it is.
Well, that's it. I mean, my 4 kids, they've never been to school. They've all been homeschooled.
Right.
My son, who's 22, he's got his own business. He's doing well with his business and that. Never been to school in his life, and the other 3 haven't either. So what we've chose to do is keep them home and let them experiment with different things and find out what their talent is, and then let them focus on that thing.
And I have a premonition, and my premonition is that public schooling will go by the wayside, because I don't know about in the
UK, already is. It already is.
Don't want to send their kids to public school anymore because it is off the charts. When you can start put a kitty litter in the school because the kids are identifying as furries. All of that, I don't understand it, and I never will. I would too, start to teach my children from home. There will be pop-ups now all over of home schooling schools. Right. So let's say the mom down the street who's doing the homeschooling, now everybody's going to take her kids to that.
It's already happening. It's already happening. I mean, we started 20 plus years ago. And in 20 years, what with technology, what with websites, what with the fact that more people are homeschooling, there's just so much more out there. And it's so much easier today than it was 20 years ago.
And it might be cheaper. And it might be cheaper because, I was watching my kids, my sister's kids they had to take hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of things into school that the schools weren't, from pencils to notebook, whatever it was, chalk, glue, all these things that my sister had to buy to send along with the children. Whereas when I was in school, it was just there. The chalkboard, the chalk. It's a whole different world. It's a whole different world.
And then a lot of the stuff they teach in schools, you're never going to need in life. And a lot of stuff they teach in schools is actually wrong.
Self-esteem is one of them. Money and finance is another one, and relationship is another one. I think if we get those in some way, shape, or form into schooling, we will find a much better world in 10 to 15 years' time.
Yeah, I mean, money is a big one. I mean, no one teaches you anything about money in school, and neither in you. And a lot of the university courses don't teach you how to build real business. I mean, it's funny because I was part, and I won't mention the university, but I was part of this management society, and the name of the university is in front of it. So I went out to Utah, where we were for this conference. And as a result of being at this leadership conference, I was allowed to go and have a day at the university and sit into some of the classes. So I'm sitting in this class about branding, and this teacher's going on. And I put my hand up and I said, excuse me, I don't agree. And everyone turns to me. Well, this guy doesn't agree with the professor. And I said, well, branding for me is because he's talking all about this logo and everything. I said, it's about what people say about you. That's what it is. And I'm thinking to myself, this guy's at one of the most prominent universities in the United States, teaching people branding in the completely wrong way, because this guy's had no real, and now these guys are going to graduate and go out there and do it the wrong way.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, it is a whole different world. And the only thing that we can do is, remember that one of the most important things you were ever going to be gifted with in your lifetime is children. And one of the most important things that they are ever going to be gifted with is you as a parent. So I truly believe that. When you're talking about good parents, let's just say good parenting. And that is difficult because, again, hurt people. So we have to be really, really careful that, as I said before, when the talk stops here, that even parents are on the path to, recovery and wanting to be the best people they can possibly be the best parent that they can be. So, parents also have very much to learn, and they certainly can stay in that learning curve.
I mean, and each child is a project. They're all different. Yeah. You'd think that they're coming from the same mum and dad. They live in the same house. Each one is different. And so but the advantage that Sylvia and I have had with our kids is that having them home has given us more time with each one to understand who they really are and what makes them tick. And Absolutely. One of the most important things I think a parent needs to teach a kid is to have self-esteem.
Yes.
Because there's so many people in the world today. I mean, and I always think of the Susan Boyle, the famous singer that won X Factor. Now, where was that woman for 53 years? Why didn't she step onto stage when she was 20? Because she probably didn't have the self-esteem. She didn't believe in herself.
I'm sure she was very bullied, that poor girl.
Yeah, exactly.
Very bullied. And so, never. And again, that whole idea of I don't think I could ever, well, that's going to follow you along the way if you don't think you could ever. So everything that, again, self-esteem is a perception of self. And how you...
I mean, that's something that happened to me. I went to international school for 8-9 years when I was living in Milan. And then I switched to an Italian school, because my parents said, we want you to get a bit more of Italian culture. So I went to an Istituto Aeronautico, an aeronautical engineering school. And so I joined this high school, and everybody wanted to be a pilot. There's 25 of us in the class. In the end, only 4 of us made it. Now, was I top of the class? I was number 7 when we graduated. So I wasn't in the number 1. But everybody above me, none of them became a pilot. So, but the thing was, everybody, once they graduated, they were either looking for an airline to sponsor them or get into the Air Force. Only one got in the Air Force. Well, actually, 2 did, but 1 quit after a while, but the other one went all the way. And then the rest of us had to go down the civilian route, where you needed back in the day about $100,000 to qualify, to pay for all your training. And so most people turn around and say, well, I don't have the money. While I turn around, instead of saying to myself, I don't have the money, I ask myself the question, how can I get the money? How can I find the money? And I was fortunate enough to be living in Italy, where very few people speak English. And so I went to teach English as a foreign language. And that's how I made my money very quickly. And then I used neuro-linguistic programming to help Italian people learn an English accent. And that went down really well. And I had these top executives look at me. I was like 20, and they look at me and say, well, why should I pay you to teach me when they've got this nice lady from America with a master's degree in English? And I said, look, it's about performance. So you can bring in the lady with a master's degree from Harvard to teach you English, or you can get a result with me in an hour that you won't get in a year. And then I said, well, let's do this exercise. So we do this exercise with using neurolinguistic programming, comparing the English accent to the Italian accent and English culture to Italian culture. And within an hour, I would get people's accents changed completely, like night and day. And even today, like 20 plus years later, some of these students I'm still in contact with, they still have their good English accent when they speak English, and not an Italian accent. So it stuck. It stuck.
Yes. Well, you could have taught them an American accent, Fabrizio.
Oh yeah, I could have done. I'll tell you this one. I always used to make fun because in the school I taught, there were some Americans as well. And I always used to make fun of, the British English and the American English. And, oh no, the Americans are like this and the British are like that. But, at the end of the day, I mean, I spent a lot of time in America. I did my flight training in the States. I lived there for 2 years in New York when I was a kid. My dad was managing the Vidal Sassoon Salon in New York.
Right.
And then, I read a lot of American books and watch. In fact, all four of my kids speak English with an American accent, believe it or not an English accent, because they've been homeschooled. So everything that they're learning is coming to them in American English, not in English English. And so they all speak American. My daughter, she's out and about, and they say, "Where are you from?" And because they think she's from, I don't know, New York or Provo or Utah or Arizona or wherever. And she kind of makes fun of people sometimes. She wish she was only born down the road. But there you go. It's funny. But I do think that today there is a big self-esteem problem, and I think COVID has just made it worse.
That's
Because
just
at the
made
end
it
of the day,
worse.
we
Yes,
have to be confident that we can achieve something. And if you've
absolutely.
got the talent but you don't have the confidence, you're not gonna take that step.
Yeah, and I think it's always important to remember that notwithstanding, for the most part, there's always tomorrow, right? I mean,
Yeah,
unless the good Lord and the angels come for you tonight, tomorrow is always, it's like, again, what's the saying? Tomorrow's another day, or
yeah,
whatever
yeah,
it is.
yeah.
And so I think and also to remember that what's meant for you will never pass you by. So, in your lifetime, if you're calling it in and you really are focused on what it is that you want to do, it will happen. It's going to take some work. And a lot of people don't understand what that means anymore, especially getting back to the younger generation. Another
Oh
thing I
yeah,
like to
what's thing you mean the generation of I want it now, and they
I
don't
want to know.
realize you've got to work for things. Yeah,
Well, I guess it doesn't work that way. Here's another one I'd like to leave
yeah.
people with, and that is you can do anything
Mm-hmm.
until you can't. You can do anything until you can't. Well, anything. I mean, I'm probably not going to get a call tomorrow from NASA and be on the moon by Tuesday at 5. That probably won't happen.
Yeah,
But you basically can do anything you want to do until you can't, because life has a funny way, doesn't it, of
yeah,
changing things on a dime. So who is it that you need to call? Who is it you need to be making an apology to? And by the way, these are some of the biggest, it's a scary thing to do, but it's one of the biggest self-esteem boosts you will ever do, is knowing that you had the courage to pick up the phone or send an email or send a card or a carrier pigeon or
yeah.
a bunch of beautiful flowers to someone that you might have lost touch with, that you want to be in touch with for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
There was a split. For whatever reason, you're not speaking anymore. Maybe it's a time to say, can we talk? Or
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Or, hey, would love to reconnect. Because I guarantee if those warm and fuzzies will really work. Now, you might not get an answer back, and you have to be ready for that as well. But you'll know that you've done everything you possibly could have done, which again, I think is, it can hurt, but it should put a little self-esteem notch in there as well toward, I know I did the right thing, because self-esteem really is about doing the right thing.
Yeah, you've got to release that baggage, and that's the thing. The older you get, more baggage you have, unless you've got the ability to release the baggage. I mean, my wife always laughs at me sometimes because I really don't care what people think about me. So I'll just tell people what I think, and sometimes I get myself in trouble. And she's like, "You really should think before you speak." And I'm like,
Well,
I just
yeah.
have to be me. But and she appreciates the fact that I'm me, but she kind of, we joke about it. But not everybody has the ability to. Some people, they hear someone say something and they keep it all in, and they keep it all in, and they keep it all in. And one day you're going to explode, and you don't want that to happen. You want to try and release as much as you can.
Absolutely.
Go
I
for a
think it's
sauna. Go and have a sauna. That helps release.
something. Yeah, absolutely. Just do it. I would say absolutely. Absolutely do that. And then another thing is, don't worry. Stop worrying, because worrying is really praying for what you do not want. Worrying is calling in what it is you don't want. So just like you said before, I didn't say, why is it that I can't, or why I don't have the money, or how is it I can get the money? It's all in the questions that you're asking
Yeah.
from the
As Tony Robbins says, the quality of your life depends on the quality of the questions you ask yourself. And it is so true. It is so true.
I
And
get it.
that's really, and the same with the whole self-esteem game. And self-esteem is so important these days. I mean, and if we can help kids grow with belief and self-esteem, great. But if you're suddenly 25 years old and you've got no self-esteem, let's see what we can do to get it. And I think moving your body is a good way to start. Losing the weight that maybe is accumulated over time. That and now people having these cold showers or going in these cold baths, that's a good one.
I know that's come back, hasn't it? I used to see this in hotels here in Europe, and oh my God, every time I just couldn't do it. I couldn't go anywhere near it.
Yeah.
I couldn't go anywhere near them, but other people seem to do it just well. Fine. So.
Yeah. No, it works. I mean, I've done them before, the cold baths or cold showers. and it really, really works. My wife has this thing she calls caldo freddo, which in English is hot and warm. Sorry, cold and hot. And what you do is you put the cold shower on full whack, and then you for like 10 seconds, and then you put it off. You move out, then you put the hot shower, and you go under the hot shower for 10 seconds, and you do that like 7 times.
Yes.
And it really gets your whole system like. And she always says to me,
Yeah.
"Get under the shower. If it's cold, just shout. If you feel like shouting, just release." But it just after it, you just really feel energized, because any negative feeling or whatever you may have inside, that will just help you release it. It's like yoga. When you get into these funny yoga positions, like our instructor tells us, you know, and you're finding it, oh, this is a bit of an awkward one. Yeah, just keep it there, keep it there, keep it there, and then boom, release.
Yeah. Yep. Got it.
It's interesting how many people that do yoga live long, because I guess yoga helps you to release.
Yeah, it does. It does help you to release. The breathing is also, you know, breathing.
Yeah,
and that's
breathing
another great exercise, you know, breathing exercises to help get you through those difficult, you know, moments, the anxious moments, for sure. Depression as well. You know, there's, you know, apparently 200 million people that, you know, lost days of work in the last couple of years, not just because of COVID, but also because of depression. So, you know, we've got to.
Yeah.
Mental health is really, really, really hard.
And doctors keep giving people pills, which is not the way to go. And the pills will create other 5 problems.
Yeah. And to remember that nothing in this world ever has meaning unless it's the meaning you give it. You know, what are you giving the meaning? Like, where are you really putting a little bit more emphasis on something that maybe you didn't have to, you know, think of was all that important, right? There are 3 choices in life. You know, you either, you know, give up, give in, or give it all you got. And that's exactly
and that's a perfect note to finish on, Clarissa. Thank you very much. The link's below to get Clarissa's book from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or wherever you want to get it. But, you know, everyone, we need to push this book because it's helping people with self-esteem, which is something that's very much needed. And we're coming to Christmas, so go out and buy 10 copies and give them to your friends for Christmas. That's a good one.
Absolutely.
Clarissa, thank you very much for being on Quantum Action. And I hope to have you on the show again soon. Thank you. So it was a great interview there with Clarissa Burt. So remember, click on the link below to buy a copy of Clarissa's book. And thank you for being on this episode of Quantum Action, here to take you to infinity and beyond. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe. We're here on YouTube, we're on Rumble on video format. We're also on Apple Podcasts, a number of other platforms, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and other platforms where you can subscribe to the Quantum Action podcast. And check out this other episode here, the Mastermind we did with Ben Woodward, TJ Hoisington, and Chris Harper about Think and Grow Rich. Click on that link to have a watch of that one. And we also did another mastermind about Tony Robbins' book, Unlimited Power. You can click on that one too. So that's all from me on this episode of Quantum Action, here to take you to infinity beyond. That's all from Fabrizio Poli checking out, and I'll see you on the next one. And remember, to infinity and beyond.